Serious. What are some scary, horrifying, creepy things that have happened that could have a plausible explanation, but still freak you out? Here's my best. Would love a plausible explanation. BTW, this is back when I lived in New Zealand. Walking home forest at night with a friend at like 2 AM, don't even ask. We were about 14. We were having good time. Talking etc. When out of nowhere our friend shows up and starts talking to us. Our friend started chatting with us and I felt a really strong sense of euphoria. This friend knew both of our names. And things that he shouldn't have, like exact details of inside my room. And things that happened to me before I moved into the country. Then he was just gone. And we both collapsed. Physically exhausted. It was then that we realized that we had never met this friend and we were still 10 kilometers from town and another 2 kilometers from our campsite. We just lay there for so long. Recovering. I never actually properly saw my friend, I kind of just knew he was with us. And I can't recall his voice either. All I remember is him asking to take us to his house, just turn left. My real friend luckily had the sense to not let me go. That left turn led to this unfenced lookout with like a 5-meter drop to rocks. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had listened. A few years back, I lived with my mother and German Shepherd in a 2-bedroom rented townhome. I got home from work one day and went about my daily routine. When it came time to eat dinner, I knocked on my mom's door to come and eat. I smelled cigarette smoke and heard her grunt a response. So I went back down and ate alone. I figured I would just put a plate away for her. Fast forward to about 2 AM. I am awoken by someone holding my hand and gently shaking it. I immediately shoot straight up and look around. My dog, who is overly protective and sleeps with me every single night, isn't in bed. She isn't even in the room. She most definitely was on my bed when I went to sleep. I sleep with the bedroom door shut and locked. She is scratching at my closed and locked bedroom door from the hallway. Frantic, I bolt for the door. Let her in and she is searching the whole room. I'm now yelling for my mother. No answer. I force my dog to walk down the hallway with me. I still smell cigarette smoke. I bang on my mom's door. No answer. So I just open it. She isn't even home. The bed is made and her TV is off. My dog and I search the whole entire house. Nothing is out of place. All the doors and windows are still locked. I was freaked out to say the least. The next day I called my mom and she told me she left early the day before to go visit my sick grandfather. I've posted about this before. But when I was about 9 years old, 1995, in the middle of a bright summer day, I went to the refrigerator to get a popsicle. Suddenly a roughly teenage looking guy, with long brown hair wearing a beige turtleneck and red plaid bell bottoms, turned around the corner into the hallway to my left. Then vanished from toe to head as I looked at him. Told no one about it for years. Until after my mother mentioned meeting the, now grown, kids who lived in the house before us, who asked her if she'd seen the bell bottom ghost. Some guy back in the 70s probably has a story about seeing some kid in his kitchen getting a popsicle from a futuristic looking fridge. So as a youngster, me and my brother were staying up late playing video games since we didn't have school the next morning. It was maybe 3 AM when we decided to shut it down and get in bed. My room is at the end of the hall while my brother's was right next to mine. After we shut it off and put the controllers away, we both hear these heavy slow footsteps coming from the kitchen. The kitchen was the only room without carpet, so they sounded pretty ominous. We gave each other a look and I called out down the hall, "Dad?" Well, then the footstep sounds trailed back towards our laundry room and stopped. That's also where our basement door is. Well, we knew something wasn't right, so we both start yelling for our mom and dad and they come rushing to us all sleepy and confused. And we frantically explain what we heard. My dad goes and checks it out and tells us that all the doors are still locked and closed and there wasn't anything showing anyone was in the house. Plausible explanation could be that it was just a person that broke in and scurried off when we called out, but I always wondered what if it was a ghost instead. I remember one time as a child, I was home on a Saturday morning. For a bit of context, back then, My mom would usually go into work on Saturday mornings and be home usually by 12 p.m. Now back to the story. I was sitting on the couch watching TV. The time started approaching 12, which meant that my mom was almost home. I very vividly remember hearing a car door close, hearing the car lock, and my mom walking into the house calling my name. When I got up to go greet her, there was no one there. Still creeps me out. I had a similar thing with my mum when I was around 12-13. I had just been chatting with her and then started to walk upstairs while she was in the kitchen. All of a sudden I hear her go ooh, super loud. Like the noise you make when someone has said something a bit cheeky or rude. It confused me because I'd not said or done anything to warrant a reaction like that. So I went back into the kitchen and asked her what that was all about. She didn't have a clue what I was talking about. Like genuinely. I could tell by her face that she wasn't just having me on. She was as confused as I am and claimed she didn't hear anything. I still wonder WTF happened there. When I was younger, my mom, my grandma and I liked to go to this little tea shop that was about 40 miles from our home. It was a cute little place where you could get the classic tea and sandwiches and cute little desserts and all. One time we went. All was normal. But on the way home we received a call that my other grandma had passed away. Very sad. But as she had been battling cancer, not exactly unexpected. The next time we went, a few months later, on the way home we received a call that my uncle had died suddenly of a heart attack. Creepy coincidence for sure. But we still did not think too much of it at the time. We went back a third time a few months after that, and for the third time on the way home, we received the phone call that someone had died. This time it was my grandpa's brother. We never went back to that tea shop again. Now all of these people were elderly and not exactly in the best of health. So them passing away around the same time was not exactly creepy. But the fact that 3 separate times that we went to this place, 3 people died the same day and we received the calls on the way home, makes me think something about that place was cursed. It has since closed, but I'm still nervous to even go to that area to this day. You ever used one of those sleep apps that records noise while you're sleeping? It's supposed to be so you can hear if you're snoring or talking or whatever. I'm having a hard time sleeping right now, so I turned it on. 3 AM. There's a load of footstep sounds. And sounds like doors and drawers opening and closing. I can hear myself moan close to the phone from time to time. Like I'm dreaming. But there's not any noise of rustling bedsheets to explain sleepwalking or anything. I have a large velvety rug in my bedroom, so there shouldn't be footsteps. Realistically, I have a metal bed frame, so the clicking and knocking sounds are probably the bed frame shifting when I move. But it sounds really like other things. I'm not recording at night anymore. I used to have a penchant for wandering around abandoned buildings when I was in high school. One time a friend and I decided it would be a good idea to explore a farmstead that hadn't been in use for years. The whole experience was really bizarre. The farmstead was accessible by a long gravel road that brought you to a cluster of dilapidated buildings around a central barn. We parked at the end of the gravel road near the turnoff to the main road so we could walk around the property and just pull out quickly later. We went into the barn first and there were deer bones arranged in a circle around the skull and a bunch of blankets and wood stacked in a corner of the room. We thought it was really cultish and weird. Noped out. And started walking back to the car. Halfway down the gravel road we heard crunching, heavy footsteps and someone screeching behind us. Really loud screeching. We sprinted back to my car and tried to peel out of there as fast as possible, but it had snowed the night prior and my back tire was stuck in a puddle of melted snow. My friend was screaming because she was so freaked out but wouldn't turn to look at the path behind us. By the time I had gotten the car unstuck, she turned around to see if there was someone following us and there was no one there. I could have been a bird or something. But we both swear up and down to this day that someone was following us. Context. My grandfather was a truck driver and taught me everything I know about driving. Especially in snow. I used to work at a store and one night, I was closing another store in our chain and we had a snow squall that unexpectedly dropped a few inches of snow in our area. I wasn't very familiar with the area, and I had my mom's car so I wasn't used to the car either. The snow was still coming down and I couldn't see, so I was creeping home and panicking as I saw cars spinning out all around me. All of a sudden, I saw a light in my passenger side view mirror, and I turned my head and sitting in the passenger seat, plain as day, I saw my dead grandfather. I heard him say he knew that I wasn't freaked out by a little snow. And then I heard his voice rattling off all the things he taught me about driving in the snow. I looked back towards the road. And then he was gone. It was a calming experience. When I saw him it was more okay. Pop's here. I'm okay. Instead of OMG you're supposed to be dead WTF. And I stopped panicking and got home without a problem. It was most likely just my brain eyes whatever playing tricks on me to get me to stop panicking. But to this day it still freaks me out. I wish I had an encounter like that. I miss my grandparents. I lived in one of the oldest apartments in the town I was living in. Couldn't sleep one night but eventually I must have dozed off as I started having an incredibly vivid dream of myself laying in bed, everything the exact same as in reality except my door opened and a creepy old lady started ominously walking towards me. I woke up and freaked out. I always lock my door. But just to be sure, I went and checked it. It was unlocked. Many years ago, my then wife was out of the country on business. I was sleeping alone in bed, with the bedroom door locked, and all the outside doors locked. In the middle of the night something woke me up. At first I couldn't tell what it was. But as I started looking around, I saw a shadow on the wall that shouldn't be there. Some clothes I hanged and forgot about. Was my first thought. Then I remember there was nothing to hang anything on that wall. So I looked more carefully. I did not want to turn on the light. Because I knew if I did I would fully wake up and have a hard time going back to sleep. As I looked, trying to make sense of the shadow, I could vaguely discern a humanoid form. Yep, that looks like a head. And arms. And then the thing moved toward me. And a face came up directly in front of my face. I completely lost control of my body. I felt myself jump straight up, my back against the wall. And I think my body was trying to literally climb up the wall. In the middle of all that, my brain finally made the connection and I recognized the face. It was my wife, who had come back one day earlier for some stupid reason. She was saying it's just me. It's just me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I understood the words. But as I said, I had lost control of my body. Finally I felt my legs going limp and I just fell on the bed, shaking and mumbling something incoherent. It took me a long time to regain control. Anyway, she had to come back one day early. Didn't want to make me go pick her up at the airport because she was going to be in very late. Walked into the bedroom very quietly and decided to sit against the wall and watch me sleep. Biggest scare of my life. This is hilarious. But I can understand how terrifying it would have been in the moment. I suffer from insomnia. When I sleep less than 2 hours in 3 days I start hallucinating and I'm completely unaware I'm hallucinating. Once, I was about to lay in bed and found myself sitting in the living room in the dark. I know I lost consciousness and walked there but I can't help to think I teleported. Ugh. My insomnia is getting worse every month. I went to work on a Saturday. Had a really productive day with lots of meetings. Too bad it was Sunday and I was the only one in the office. Please go and seek help. That's really, really bad.